Hey guys, welcome to the review and results show for the January 4th, 2023 edition of AEW Dynamite. My name's Dan, and I should let you guys know that I have been and will be reviewing each and every AEW show. That's everything from Dark Elevation to all of their pay-per-views, so if you missed the show and you want a quick recap, or you just want a place to talk all things AEW, you can do so right here. So please, before I get into this review, go right below this video, click the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. That's not only to let you not miss any review that I do, but also helps others to find my channel. And without any further ado, let's get into the review. First, we gotta talk about this new set design here. As we can see, gone are the two entrance tunnels. Instead, it looks like a series of screens with the heels and faces still coming out on either side. I do like the layout of them. It'll probably take me a bit to get used to, but I thought it would be good to sort of open with this because they have been talking about it for a while, that there's gonna be some changes, and here they are. Anyway, the show kicks off with Ricky Starks taking on Chris Jericho, and I gotta say, Seattle crowd was absolutely fantastic. They were hot for absolutely everything, and they gave so much love to all their hometown peeps. One being Aubrey Edwards, which of course she does because she's absolutely wonderful. And then you have Ricky Starks. That slow walk across the ropes looks so damn impressive, and he's kind of doing like a little strut with it too. I can't even imagine the type of balance that must take to be able to do that. He's also so incredibly over, and it's well deserved because the hard work he's been putting in every single day. It's very evident, and it's good to see that people are recognizing that. During the match, though, the JAS did try to do a bit of a distraction, trying to hit Ricky Starks in the head with something while Aubrey's back was turned there. But Ricky was just too damn resilient. There was no way he was getting down, and ends up winning the match with one hell of a spear. It felt like a bit of a pay-per-view match, honestly. This match was just fantastic from start to finish. Though I'm sure they're going to build to one, and then, funny enough, because that was in my notes, I think, oh, they're probably going to build to one. After the match, JS comes out, attacks Ricky, acting Andretti, tries to make the save, but the ladies of the JS said no to that, gave him a low blow. Seems like this is going to go on for a bit longer. They're certainly playing the numbers game again, which is kind of something they seem to do with all the feuds involving JAS. So you gotta wonder now who else is going to be joining Andretti and Ricky Starks in this feud. The names may be fun, but hopefully this feud does not go on as long as the one with the BCC. Then we had Tony Schiavone in the ring, and he invited out Hangman Adam Page to talk a little bit about what's been going on with him, about his current condition. And he basically says, look, if I have any more interactions with Moxley, I'm not going to be able to have a match with Moxley. It's going to be delayed further and further, so he has to delay any sort of interaction, any sort of fighting, because the more he's going to fight with him, the less chance he's going to be able to actually have a match with him. It was a very passionate promo, and he said, and I quote, probably the line of the night here, "I will knock your dick into the dirt." That absolutely popped me. I know it popped everyone in the crowd. Everyone on Twitter was going nuts for it. Then that prompted Moxley to come out, and he responded by saying how sick he was of all the sympathy that Hangman was getting. Apparently there was some technical difficulties there too, because the crowd was chanting that they couldn't hear him. I guess for whatever reason we could hear them, but the crowd in attendance couldn't. At one point he said fuck, and the mic randomly picked that up, and I'm not going to blame him for that, because at that point, he wasn't really sure what was going on. That little bit was a mess, but Moxley was able to reel it in a bit. Said, go Seahawks. Of course, that being in Seattle, that's going to get the crowd right back on his side just for a moment. Then he talks about like all he's been through in comparison to Hangman, how it makes him sick. The Hangman then responds by saying he's not mad at the fact that he got hurt, but more or less mad that Mox made fun of it. He has kind of been thick about it. That's actually very true. Very solid promo segment there. Shocker, because, you know, Hangman and Moxley are absolutely fantastic on the mic. Then we had a vignette from Samoa Joe hyping up the main event, which is going to be against Darby for the TNT Championship. Surprise, surprise again. It's a fantastic promo. Joe is always a fantastic promo. He's great in the ring, and I think he's even better on the mic. Up next, we have the tag team title match with Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett going up against the Acclaim. And of course, with this, anything with Max Caster's rap, you know, we're going to have to talk about it a bit because there were some good stuff in there. We heard online a lot about Karen Jarrett, the wife of Jeff Jarrett, not being too much of a fan of the music video, not really handling it the best, and a lot of the people online have really just kind of been roasting her about it. And then Jeff Jarrett taking the L and blaming it on Dixie Carter. That was a good one. And then Total Nonstop Action stands for Total Nonstop Acclaim. That was really good. I do believe, though, that he probably had, being Jeff, had some sort of knowledge of these raps coming into it, because I don't think you're going to do that and then have a match with the guy regardless. Jeff Jarrett is a consummate professional anyway. This certainly added a lot to the match, got the crowd much more fired up, so I do think there was a lot of positive gain there, even if maybe it was a bit too much at times. There was great back and forth, and there was a point where Satnam ended up getting thrown out because he got a little bit too involved in the match, but a little later on saw a bit of a screwy finish. Max Caster's leg was on the rope, but when he counted to 3, Sanjay pushed the foot off the rope. Ref didn't see it. They counted 3, and for a brief moment, everyone's like, wait a minute, they're really going to be the new tag champs, but Aubrey Edwards being out there anyway, which I do like. I really enjoy that there was a reason for her to be out there, comes out there and it's like, no, this is what happened. We need to restart things. And then they got the roll-up, end up getting the win, setting up another match for them at Battle of the Belts, which we'll hear a bit more later on. Then we switch to the pre-taped interview that everyone's talking about, at least something that I have just latched onto and not let go of. You had Tony Schiavone there with Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker. It all started off with Tony asking them about their mystery partner, but Britt brought things back to the fact that they're homegrown stars, that Saraya just will never get it being a newbie in AEW. And they also really put over hard how great Shida is, how great Tony is, and I like that. I like whenever heels put over their opponents. That was really great. And she had one pretty good line, one great line to where the camera didn't zoom in on her or anything, but she basically talking about like what I am, what Jamie is. There was a point where she said, "I'm the boss," and then did a little wink to the camera, like hey, you know what's coming. You know Mercedes Moné is definitely coming here, which was very, very interesting that she was the one that brought it up, and very interesting as well as because this interview aired before later on when we were going to get to see the interview segment with Saraya. But we'll get more into my overall feelings about where this is going during that bit. Backstage, once again, we had a Jungle Boy talking about he wasn't sure if he had anybody to count on anymore, and in steps in Hook, the team that we didn't know that we needed. He said they're going to be taking care of business against Lee Moriarty and Big Bill next week. They are really, really stacking this show. Then it's Bryan Danielson getting a great, fantastic, well-deserved pop from the hometown fans, going up against Tony Nese. The match started off hot for Nese, getting a bit of a distraction, getting the early advantage, but Bryan was not to be denied here, getting his greatest hits in, getting the crowd really back into it. It was a huge testament to how good both these guys were, because it was a bit of a roller coaster ride in such a short amount of time. Bryan ends up once again winning with the Regal stretch, which is a nice touch considering his feud with MJF, because it's been the same submission that he won his previous match with. After the match, Bryan Danielson got on the mic, said he's ready for another fight, that he really wants some of MJF, and in comes out MJF, as you can see here, contractually obliged to appear live in Seattle. He calls himself a special attraction, that regardless of whether he wrestles, he's going to get paid, which is a nice arrogant little touch there. And then he had a great line of saying that if Lance Storm and Dean Malenko had a kid, that they would be much more charismatic than Bryan. Of course, we know how uncharismatic that it seems like Dean Malenko and Lance Storm were, especially with their characters back in the day, which was pretty cool. And then we had MJF sort of implying that Bryan Danielson had relations with a goat, because apparently, just like the previous company, he looks like a goat. Then Danielson took it a bit further with MJF's mom, where I feel like he could have said something along the lines of, well, I could make fun of your mom, but your mom doesn't even like you. That you suck so much that your mom doesn't even like you. But no, goes into a bit of a slut-shaming here, basically saying that everybody in attendance had sex with MJF's mom. Not really a huge fan of that, but apparently everybody in the crowd was super into that. Then it went back to MJF, where he name-dropped Disco Inferno, Eric Bischoff, and Jim Cornette as guys who have put him over. Of course, these guys are generally too liked by the internet wrestling community. But the important part here is that you talk with Tony Khan, and he has to wrestle every single week until February 8th, and then if he wins all of these matches, then he's going to get a shot at MJF at Revolution. And the other big part is that Bryan Danielson sort of chimed in and said, like, okay, I'll agree to that, but I get to choose a stipulation, where MJF finally did agree, and looks like we're going to get a banger of a main event there. It's going to be an Iron Man match for 60 minutes. Hopefully, Tony doesn't decide to stack this card too much, because the show may be starting at 7:30 for like the pre-show stuff. But if it's the usual, it's going to be going into the next day, which I am very, very much not looking forward to. Up after that, we had Swerve Strickland versus AR Fox, and it was also nice here to get a great hometown reception for Swerve, considering what Excalibur said, because Swerve was a big part of their scene there, a lot to do with the success of Defy Wrestling, and what a match. What a freaking match from start to finish. These two were just so great. Really calling back to their times together in Lucha Underground, which was a very, very nice touch. There was a spot early on where, I'm making sure I'm reading this right, where AR was standing on the ring apron, and he did a backflip while simultaneously Swerve sort of did a front flip out of the ring. I think he rolled, if I remember correctly. He did a roll, and he got up right back onto his feet, getting right in AR's face. Such a nice looking move there. And then after that, like, the big thing to really talk about here was the Death Valley Driver. The Avalanche Death Valley Driver off the top looks so vicious, looks so freaking nasty. And then just to add insult to injury, he just had to do the Swerve Stomp for the win, and he sort of just sat there, just sort of taunting him like that, and just saying, yeah, I did this to you, what are you going to do about it? Nothing, because I just won. So that was pretty cool. The whole match, again, was absolutely nuts. This is one that you need to go out of your way and watch, because these two are just fantastic. Then, as I alluded to earlier, this is the sort of, I guess, follow-up segment to Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter sitting down with Tony, as you can see here in this picture. We have Renee Paquette sitting with Tony Storm, Hikaru Shida, and Saraya. A lot of talk going on still about who the mystery partner is going to be. A lot of people have been speculating that it was going to be a Mercedes Moné, but they didn't really waste too much time here, because as you can see, Saraya was sitting in between the two of them, immediately says, oh, it's Tony. And Hikaru Shida was she was not happy at all here. Could this mean that maybe we'll see a heel turn for her? We'll have to wait and see how that goes. Maybe she can feud with Tony Storm for a bit. But the question still remains is, why would Britt Baker do that whole boss line and that little wink? Is that her saying, oh, well, I got Mercedes Moné in my back pocket because she turned up and she was heel at Wrestle Kingdom doing what she did against Kairi? Or maybe, just maybe, there's going to be some sort of shenanigans this Friday where they're all going to fight each other. Maybe somebody gets injured. Maybe Shida turns on Tony there, and then Saraya just doesn't have a partner anymore, and here instead Mercedes. Or no respect to Rebel. Maybe they sort of, I guess, sort of even things here. Maybe she comes out making it look like she's going up against Britt, but then helps Britt. A lot of interesting possibilities here. A lot of people were just sort of writing it off like, okay, like maybe there's not going to be any Mercedes. No way. It's definitely happening. She's not going to drop that boss line without Mercedes being somewhere on next week's show. We then had the Guns coming down to the ring, sort of making fun of the fact of all of FTR's troubles, of how they've been losing every single one of their titles. And of course, there was a bit of fun that they had where they sort of fooled people that FTR was there, but of course they couldn't be. They were in Japan that morning, and I don't think anybody would ask them to take a flight. That flight's a really long flight anyway. I don't think they'd even make it in time if they did. But this is very good, very effective. Make the crowd hate them just a little bit more. I'm not really too keen on the Guns, but so far they have been handling them pretty well considering how much they've been pushing. And after a quick video package hyping up match 7 between the Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Death Triangle, we had Jade Cargill and Red Velvet taking on Kiera Hogan and Sky Blue. And they were really leading into, throughout the entire match, the tension between Velvet and Jade Cargill. It was a fun match. Everyone looked pretty good. The crowd, as I've been saying, been into everything the entire night, was definitely into this one. Everyone involved I absolutely loved, so I was going to be more into it. But despite the fact that Red Velvet ended up walking out on Jade, she still picked up the win anyway, getting win number 47. Kind of makes you think, okay, so whoever is going to defeat her is probably going to defeat her either just before 50 or right after 50. Is it going to be maybe someone like Mercedes? There's still the name Willow out there. Maybe they do the full circle thing with Jade and Red Velvet, because there was once upon a time where Red Velvet was feuding with Jade. That was a thing that was going on for a bit, but then she just randomly joined the baddie, so maybe they can revisit that. After that, we went backstage where Renee Paquette was standing with Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh, pretty upset about how things went down here. Said there's going to be a no-holds-barred match between them against the Acclaimed, where hopefully this whole feud can end, because nobody wants to see the titles on Lethal or Jeff Jarrett. Hopefully they can get a definitive win here, get their finisher on, so the Acclaimed can move on to bigger and much, much better things. Lastly, we had the main event with Samoa Joe defending his TNT Championship up against Darby Allin. And before it, we had a great video. Looks like it was put together by Darby, showing off his journey in AEW thus far. And of course, as with everybody else on the show, Darby got a huge pop being from Seattle, Washington. And of course, at ringside was future AEW star Nick Wayne, which was a nice touch. It was really cool. And with how dominant Joe was in their match before, I was really curious to see how they were going to sort of make it even, make it look like Darby was going to have a chance. And they really did a great job early on. Darby hit him a whole bunch of times with his skateboard, then did a jump off of a ladder. He then later on used the top rope that Joe himself ended up exposing, got knocked into it, gets hit with 2 coffin drop, and your new TNT champion is Darby Allin. A great way to send the fans home happy. Great hometown pop there. You had Sting coming out to celebrate. It was absolutely wonderful to see. You have to wonder, because a lot of people were talking about Wardlow being the next in line to get back the TNT title. Maybe he goes after Joe's TV title. And it'll also be interesting to see if maybe Darby goes up against, I don't know, maybe he's sort of a placeholder holder for the title. Easy for me to say. Maybe he goes up against Swerve. Swerve takes it, and then the feud with Swerve versus Keith Lee can be over the TNT title. That could be a lot of fun. And that was AEW Dynamite. What did you guys think about it? Please let me know down in the comment section below. I feel like AEW, as of late, have been riding a pretty big high. And considering this was the big debut of their new set, first AEW Dynamite of the year, they had to start off strong, and I do believe that they did. There wasn't a single thing on the show I just like. Maybe the whole slut-shaming thing I could have done without, but everything else was pretty much fine. With that said, though, as I said earlier, I will be reviewing each and every AEW show going forward. Everything from Dark Elevation to every single AEW pay-per-view. So if you missed the show and you want a quick recap, or you saw the show and you want to chat things all AEW, this is the perfect place for you. So please go right below this video, click that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. So not only will you see all future reviews that I do, but also help others to find my channel. And with that being said, thank you guys, as always, for checking these videos out, and thank you guys for being all elite.